Ah yes, the Nintendo 64, Nintendo's bold leap into the world of 3D gaming. It's a console remembered for many things: its legendary library of games, that wild 3-pronged controller, but also for one notorious flaw: the control stick. Over time, it gets loose, wobbly, and downright inaccurate, eventually turning into a sloppy gaming experience. And without fail, the module ends up filled with plastic dust, a clear result of all that wear and tear. Over the years, there have been promised solutions that often resulted in disappointment and controversy. But now it appears we have a solution, and it's this: the all-new, all-metal Precision CNC Machine Control Stick Replacement Kit that's tighter, tougher, and most importantly, more accurate than the original. This is the Renaissance N64 stick. Let's check it out. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Tito and welcome to another episode of Retro Renew. Today I'm really excited because we get to take a look at a mod that promises to fix one of the biggest design flaws of the Nintendo 64. This is the Renaissance Control Stick Replacement, a kit that not only replaces, but upgrades the major components of the N64 control stick module. This gives us a way to make our old controller like new again, with some added customizable features. But first, let's get into a bit of background on the N64 analog stick, or control stick as Nintendo referred to it as, because you see it actually has some major advantages over all modern analog sticks that we use today. Now, I know you're thinking, Tito, I thought you just said it has a major design flaw, and yes, it definitely does. But the technology it uses is better than nearly all modern analog sticks in almost every way. So stick drift is a major problem we've been hearing a lot about, especially in recent years, because basically every modern analog stick will eventually have this problem. Well, the N64 control stick will never get stick drift because it uses different technology. Nearly all modern analog sticks, such as the ones found in the Nintendo Joy-Cons or the PS5 controller, use something called potentiometers to measure how far you're pushing the stick in any particular direction. These potentiometers degrade over time, resulting in the infamous stick drift. On the other hand, the Nintendo 64 uses optical discs that pass through an optical encoder to measure the distance traveled on the stick. These never wear out, are more accurate, and are impervious to problems like stick drift. So then what exactly is the fatal flaw of the Nintendo 64 control stick? To help break it down, I actually spoke with Callie, a high-ranking Super Mario 64 speedrunner who knows the quirks and pitfalls of the N64 control stick better than almost anyone. Now me, I'm just a casual Nintendo 64 user, but Callie on the other hand puts many N64 controllers through some serious stress on a daily basis. So let's hand it over to him for some insight into the issues with the original N64 control stick.
Hey Tito, thanks for having me on. For those who don't know, I'm Callie, a top-level Super Mario 64 speedrunner, and I have a lot of experience with the N64 controller. Now the N64 controller actually has a design that promotes a lot of good characteristics, things that are desirable, especially competitively, things such as high accuracy, high precision, and good feel. Unfortunately, it is created entirely out of plastic, which results in very quick wear, and this wear gets rid of those characteristics, which obviously is not desirable. For example, I had a steel bowl when I first started speedrunning, and a steel bowl will reduce the rate of wear on an OEM stick, and even then, I was replacing the stick maybe once every 6 months. So during those 6 months, the stick was constantly wearing, the values and feel were changing, I constantly was adapting, and then I would have to replace the stick entirely with another one, which one, it's hard to get your hands on just another stick that's of good quality, and two, OEM parts vary considerably from part to part. So you're gonna have to adjust all over again completely. That's not good. You want consistency. You want to be able to rely on the controller and not have to constantly be readjusting and fighting it. The Renaissance project addresses all of these concerns and gets rid of them, and it has been great. Back to Tito, and he'll tell you more.
Awesome, thanks so much for that, Callie. So yeah, while the N64 control stick does have some great qualities like impressive accuracy and precision, unfortunately, durability isn't one of them, due primarily to its all-plastic construction. And like he mentioned, there have been some attempted solutions over the years, but many of them fell short. We've seen failed crowdfunding campaigns, limited production runs, and months-long wait lists, making it nearly impossible for most people to actually get their hands on these upgrades. There's actually a really great video by RetroMeister that dives deep into the full history of these attempts. I'll have that link down below in the video description if you want to check it out. Well, fast forward to today, and it looks like that the Renaissance Kit might finally be the accessible, long-term fix that Nintendo 64 fans have been waiting for. The creator of the Nintendo, RockerGaming, who I featured on this channel before, has teamed up with Tao to develop this high-quality replacement that upgrades the core components of the original Nintendo 64 control stick. It's super easy to install, and I'll be showing you how to do it in just a minute. Each kit includes a precision machined stick with removable thumb cap, a highly polished hardened steel bowl housed in a newly injection molded composite carrier, a brand new injection molded gate, and a full set of tools for installation and fine-tuning. So how does this new kit solve Nintendo's fatal flaw? Well, it all starts with the materials. The original design was made entirely of plastic components, plastic rubbing against plastic. Over time, that constant friction produces a fine dust, which only increases resistance and accelerates wear and tear. It's a recipe for self-destruction. This is why you want materials that exhibit low wear and have minimal friction. The Renaissance Kit utilizes a plastic nub on the end of the all-metal control stick, which will glide over the highly polished hardened steel bowl, which is extremely resilient and scratch-resistant, meaning it can withstand a ton of abuse without degrading. And I have to say, when installed, the results are night and day. It's firm, responsive, and buttery smooth. So with that, let me show you just how easy it is to install the Renaissance Kit into your Nintendo 64 controller. But before we jump into that, let me first tell you about the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. If you have an idea for a new mod or want to assemble an open source project, PCBWay provides you with the tools to make them a reality. From 3D printing services in an array of materials, all the way to other services like CNC machining, injection molding, and of course PCB and flex ribbon fabrication. So when it comes to taking your retro mods to the next level, PCBWay is the place to make that happen. Check out the link in the description for PCBWay to get $5 off your first order, and again a huge thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started installing the Renaissance Kit. Alright, so today's subject is this atomic purple controller, which has a control stick that would be considered tight, but does have a bit of wobble. So before installing it, let's do a quick test to see what condition it's currently in, so we can later compare it to the Renaissance Kit we're about to install. This here is a pretty cool little Nintendo 64 controller tester that RockerGaming made when developing the Renaissance Kit. You can actually download a ROM that does the same thing using a Nintendo 64 flash cart, so you can also do your own testing and dial in the settings that you want. Anyway, after running through a few of the control stick tests, we can see that this is quite a bit off from what a quote perfect stick would perform like. Ideally, we want 85s in all of the cardinal directions and 45s for each of the diagonals. Diagonals look pretty decent, but the cardinal directions are all over the place, running from 79 all the way to 91. Okay, so we got our test results, now let's replace it. To start, we'll flip the controller over and remove all 9 screws, 2 of which are inside of the accessory port. Once the shell is out, we can remove the Z-button PCB and membrane from the control stick module. Now we can go ahead and unplug the control stick from the controller PCB and remove the 3 screws securing it to the top shell. With the module out, remove this single screw here on the bottom. And then very gently lift the 2 tabs, which is all that's left securing the gate, so be careful not to break these because we will be reusing that bottom piece. Okay, with the top off, we can really see all this plastic dust and debris inside of the bowl, which is basically caused by all of that plastic on plastic wear and tear, and it's pretty bad. This is actually quite a bit worse than I thought it was going to look. Anyway, we'll need to remove this gear, the encoder PCB, and the bowl. Next, we're going to need to remove the encoder wheels. For this, just pull the retaining tabs out, and then they should just come out. Next, we'll need to push in the tension spring so we can twist and pull out the control stick. This will allow us to grab the remaining parts that we'll need to reuse, which is the gear, retaining nylon washer, and the tension spring. And as you can see, yet again, all these parts are layered in plastic dust, which just further exacerbates wear and tear. Okay, so here you can see all the parts that we'll be reusing, which are the gears, encoder wheels, tension spring, washer, encoder PCB, and the lower housing. Now, before we reassemble the control stick with the new parts, I decided to use the ultrasonic cleaner to give them a very deep clean. This is completely optional, and you can simply use something like a microfiber towel to remove all of that plastic dust. I mean, just look at all of that debris coming off of these parts. Man, these things were really dirty. And I'm actually really happy with how clean these came out. Anyway, once the parts are completely dry, we can start to reassemble. The first thing we're going to grab is the hardened steel bowl, which does come very nicely packaged. Here's a close-up of the polished finish of the bowl, which is pretty remarkable. I mean, just look at that reflection. So to prep everything, we're going to go ahead and add some plastic-safe grease to a few of the contact points. I'm personally using Moly Coat, but I'll leave a few links to some other greases that RockerGamer recommends. So the first place we're going to add grease will be for the encoder wheels shown here. You'll only need a very small amount. Less is more for these applications. Now we can go ahead and slide these encoder wheels back onto the bowl, and you can see that there are channels here that allows you to slide them into place. Now we can go ahead and place the bowl into the lower housing. It's a bit of a tight fit, but it does snap nicely into place. Next, we're going to place some more grease at these 4 pivot points for the gears. While this is optional, it is strongly recommended, as this will allow the gears to last for a longer time and perform better. And again, less is more. And the last place we'll lubricate is the bowl itself. You just want to add a very light coating. Okay, now we can grab the gate and begin to remove the set screw. I really like that they added a brass insert here, which really shows the attention to detail in all aspects of this kit. Nicely done. Next, just grab the stick and install it into the gate as shown. Now, grabbing the tension spring, you'll notice that this side is wider and this side is narrower. You want the narrow side to be placed inside the gate like this. Then you can grab the nylon washer and ensure that this lip here is facing down on the inside part of the spring, and that this flat part here on the ring is aligned with that brass insert. Alright, so here you can see we have the short gear, and on top we have the long gear. Let's go ahead and grab the short gear. You'll want to install it as shown and pivot it on its axis so that it locks in place. Then you'll need to carefully align this part of the gear here with, again, the brass insert, ensuring that the stick does remain locked in while doing so. You want this elongated part of the bottom of the stick to be perpendicular to the gear. Now we can go ahead and drop in the long gear, making sure it's centered in the bowl. Next, we'll put the two halves together, and we want to make sure that this part of the stick goes right here into the center of the gear. And lastly, once it's snapped in and the stick appears to be centered and working, use the set screw to secure the module. Just remember to not over tighten. Alright, the Renaissance kit is installed. Now it's just a matter of putting it all back together. Fantastic, and that's how easy it is to install the Renaissance kit. Now, like I alluded to earlier in the video, this makes just an absolute night and day difference in how the control stick feels. So from a purely tactile standpoint, it's already a worthwhile upgrade in my opinion, just comparing it to the original one that I have makes me never want to go back. But now let's see if that improved feel translates into better performance. To find out, we're going to run through the controller test suite just a few more times. So here we can see we got some fantastic results. All our cardinal directions are close to or beyond the range of a perfect factory stick, with results greater than 85. And our diagonals are very close to the 45 degrees mark. Just as a reminder, this is what we had with the original stick before replacing it, and what would typically be considered tight if sold on a marketplace like eBay. Again, a perfect stick would have 85s in all of the cardinal directions, with 45s at each of the diagonals. The cardinal directions on the older stick is just all over the place, ranging from 79 all the way to 91, and with the diagonals not being too bad, with downright just being a bit off the mark. So a definite tangible improvement even before making some tweaks, which the Renaissance kit allows you to do. But don't take my word for it, because I'm again a very casual Nintendo 64 user. I was able to reach out to another speedrunner named Trey Bardo, who ranks in the top 10 of several speedrunning categories for Mario 64, and he's been using the Renaissance kit for a while now, and this is what he had to say.
Big thanks to Tito for having me. I've been on the Renaissance stick for about a month now, around 60 hours in, and honestly, it's incredible. The performance hasn't dropped one bit, and it's still as precise as it was on the first day that I used it. My favorite part is that I'm able to tweak the angles all without even opening the controller. As a speedrunner who's gone from cheap Amazon controllers to OEM sticks, this is the closest to perfection that I've found. It saves money, saves time, with minimal maintenance and no replacements. And with OG N64 controllers getting more scarce over time, this is a total game changer. No more playing the controller lottery. No more spending $70+ just for a chance at a good controller. I really couldn't recommend it more. Anyways, thank you so much, Tito. Back to you.
Awesome, thanks for that, Trey. Honestly, if the Renaissance is good enough for both Callie and Trey Bardo, who put their N64 controllers through the ringer on a daily basis, then it's definitely good enough for me. Anyway, the Renaissance kit is shipped ready to be used with no tweaking necessary. However, if you want to further dial in the feel and performance, the Renaissance kit allows you to do this, which brings me to the features. So I kind of want to adjust my control stick to be more in line with a perfect OEM controller, which is again represented by that teal colored octagon. As you can see, my performance results are marked with the green octagon and is outside of the teal colored one, which in many regards is better than OEM as it makes the controller have a wider range and more precision. So what we're going to do is remove the cap from the stick with the included Torx driver. And then we're also going to want to remove the bottom of the shell so we can eventually remove the control stick module. We're going to leave it plugged into the controller because I will be measuring my changes as I make them. You can actually download a ROM to measure all the changes you're making, and is very similar to the device that RockerGaming let me borrow for this video. Anyway, the first adjustment we can do is by taking the included Allen key and fitting it inside of the stick like this. By twisting it to the right, it pushes the nub outward, increasing the range of motion and extending it beyond the teal octagon. For certain games, that extra range can actually be an advantage. Twisting it to the left allows the nub to be pushed inward, decreasing the range, giving the opposite effect. Now you'll notice that my range is a bit lopsided towards the right, so another adjustment we can do is by loosening the set screw on the bottom of the module and slightly shifting the gate and then retightening. By messing with these adjustments, I was eventually able to get a pretty tight adjustment that's very close to what's considered to be a perfect stick. So adjustability is just another one of the great features of the Renaissance kit, giving the user the exact feel and range of motion they desire for better overall performance. Now another great feature are the materials used. The all-metal design of the stick and bowl ensure that these components last a very long time and maintain that tight and responsive feel. So overall, it's a fantastic kit with some fantastic features. But now let's get into the pros and cons. Starting with the pros, I think durability is right up there at the top. This thing will probably last forever with proper maintenance for an average user like me. It was designed with speedrunners in mind, which are probably the people who are going to be the hardest on these sticks. Another pro is the adjustability of the sticks. Being able to change the range of motion with the internal set screw is pretty incredible, with further minor tweaking to the gate's position. Additionally, the nub, which is a wear item, is replaceable with non-proprietary parts, meaning you can buy it for just a few cents from other companies and it'll likely be in production for the foreseeable future. RockerGaming will also be selling these nubs on his store, but there are other options. Also, the removable cap allows you to further customize the control stick. Right now, I think only black and clear are available, but I can see other styles like perhaps a concave design, or maybe one with a rubberized material for better grip coming down the road. Another big plus is availability. Previous kits often stumbled here. They were notoriously hard to get your hands on, but I'm told these will be regularly in stock and ready to be purchased. That said, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I'm told that the initial orders will take around 3 weeks to fulfill, but that turnaround time is expected to improve moving forward. Of course, with the current environment, it's anyone's guess how the supply chains will hold up, but I'm hopeful that these will be readily available, and it does seem like RockerGaming and Tao are making availability a top priority. And the last pro, the looks. I mean, come on, these things just look awesome on the N64 controller. That clean, machine metal finish just gives a very premium vibe. I'm a total sucker for metal replacement parts, and this one definitely delivers. Anyway, those are the pros, but now let's get into the cons. And really, I just have one, and guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. This thing is pretty expensive. The Renaissance kit, which includes the bowl, stick, cap, injection molded gate, and the tools, will cost $164.64, which is wicked expensive. But hear me out. To get an analog stick that remotely feels close to this and performs as good, you would most likely need to buy a brand new Nintendo 64 controller, which obviously is in short supply and getting smaller by the day, and is pretty darn expensive in and of itself. Coupling that with the fact that they wear out pretty quick makes this a pretty good proposition. Now, if you're just a casual gamer like me, a mod like this may be overkill, but think of it this way. The control stick is your primary interface with nearly all Nintendo 64 titles, so why settle for this when you could have this? So where can you pick one of these up? For now, RockerGaming is selling these exclusively at his Etsy store, which I'll link down below. He also has some other cool stuff there, like of course the Nintendo drawer, as well as other customizing accessories and mods for the Nintendo 64 controller. I actually really dig this stand that he sent over with the kits, which are perfect for displaying that newly installed Renaissance stick. Also, be sure to follow RockerGaming on Twitter for all the latest updates on the Renaissance kit, and keep an eye out for future upgrades from him. Word is he's working on replacement gears as well. That means yet another part we'll be able to swap out in case yours ever wears out. Well folks, there you have it. The Renaissance kit from RockerGaming and Tao. The last control stick you'll likely ever need for your Nintendo 64 controller. Now also, just as a reminder, I do have a second channel, which I'll have linked in the video description, so definitely check that out. I have other content there, a little bit more casual, and I go over sort of smaller mods that I wouldn't necessarily cover on this channel. So again, I'll have that link down below for you to check out. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I really think you'll like this one here, so check it out. And as always, thank you all so much for tuning in today, and I'll catch you again next time.